Hello and a warm welcome. You're watching India Tonight with me, Jude, Sannith, and joining me is my colleague from Delhi, Sumita, Kareer.
Absolutely, Jude. And tonight, for viewers, we're putting the big focus on what's transpiring in the United States of America. Well, the U.S. is a country on the edge tonight after the shocking assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The 31-year-old founder of Turning Point USA was fatally shot in the neck yesterday during an event at Utah Valley University. And this, even as he was delivering a speech, and this was part of his American comeback tour. Authorities report a single shot was fired, possibly from a nearby rooftop, in what the Utah governor Spencer Cox has called a political assassination. The suspect, described as a college-aged individual, he remains at large, with a manhunt intensifying and the FBI analyzing video footage and forensic evidence. And that includes a high-powered rifle found in a wooded area near the campus. Meanwhile, Jude, President Donald Trump has announced the death, and in fact, he's also posted on his platform Truth Social.
Absolutely, calling it a quote-unquote dark moment for America, vowing to crack down on what he describes as radical left political violence. Those are Trump's words. In a video address, Trump also stated, and I quote, "My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence," end quote. Now, this he said while ordering American flags to be flown at half-staff through Sunday. However, Trump's remarks have also sparked controversy as he omitted mention of the recent attacks on Democratic figures, including the murder of Minnesota state lawmaker Melissa Hotman and an arson attack on Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's residence. But surely the killing has deepened America's internal rift, Sumita.
Absolutely, Jude. It has deepened in America's internal rift, with both sides of the political spectrum now condemning the violence but pointing fingers over its root causes. House Speaker Mike Johnson has called the act detestable, while former President Joe Biden and Barack Obama, they have urged an end to political violence, with Obama stating, and I quote, "This kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy." And yet, some conservative voices, including representatives like Lauren Boebert and Nancy Mace, have accused Democrats of fostering a climate of hostility, while Democrats like Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker have pointed to Trump's rhetoric as inflaming tensions, Jude.
While experts warn that Kirk's death could mark a tipping point in a surge of political violence, with surveys even showing growing acceptance of force to achieve political gains. Now, as vigils for Kirk spring up across the country from Utah to Phoenix, the question looms: is America's waning unity a sign of a broader decline in its global influence?
Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we'll be debating and discussing that very, very crucial topic, along with some other points of view, with a stellar panel of guests who's joining us now. Joining us is Alistair Newton, CEO of Alavan Business Advisory, and also Jan Gupta, former ambassador and representative of India to the WTO. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET. Now, let me come to you, Mr. Newton, first. You have on earlier occasions, spoken to us about business aspects. But tonight, let's put the spotlight on Kirk's death. This is quite unfortunate that a young life was taken away. Now, Kirk was also somebody who was very close to the Trump family and were consequential in President Trump's winning in the second term. So do talk to us about who Kirk was and what does the shooting indicate before we go on to the more deeper questions that my colleague Jude was just speaking about.
Well, there's no doubt that Charlie Kirk was a very, very talented young man, an animateur, as the French would say, who was capable of getting young voters out to support Donald Trump, to support the MAGA movement. He had a brilliant political career in front of him, I would personally say. And irrespective of what one feels about his political views, rightly or wrongly, whatever you may feel about him and his views, the fact is that he was a remarkably astute politician. He was a very clever young man, and he was undoubtedly one of the greater characters in US politics today. So his death is a tragedy, not only in terms of a young life lost, and one has to think about his wife and 2 children at this stage, but also in terms of somebody who has genuine leadership and was a real political force in America. So a very sad moment indeed for all concerned. Sadder still for the fact that, sadly, it is part of a growing trend in American politics. We've seen the return of violence. You and Jude have mentioned a number of other cases. There was the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband. We could add to that. America is clearly deeply troubled by both political polarization and violent attacks. And let's recall, too, that there was yet another school attack yesterday. So this isn't just about political assassinations. It's not just about political targets. It's about violence in American society. It's about the absence of gun control, and we're not going to see any change in that, I'm absolutely sure. And it's about a society, most of all, as either you or Jude said, I can't remember which one, which is deeply, deeply polarized, and where violence is likely, very sadly, to be a recurring theme. And certainly politicians on both sides of the aisle have not been helpful in this respect. Some have been more emollient, but there have been outspoken comments from both sides of the aisle which are only likely to inflame tensions still further. And I'm afraid we are in a downward spiral.
Right. Alistair, I think aptly summed up. This incident has gravely exposed the fault lines that lie in American politics, especially bordering on violence, at least as far as recent events go. Before we proceed, let's quickly take a look at the order of sequences as they played out a few hours ago when that fatal assassination, of course, of Charlie Kirk took place. Let's take a look at the sequences as they happened.
Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country.
All right, that's President Trump essentially talking about that horrific act took place. In fact, joining us now also on the panel is Anand Ahuja, who's a Trump supporter. Thank you very much, Mr. Ahuja, for taking the time out and joining us here tonight on India Tonight. How do you respond to Donald Trump's, first thoughts and, of course, that address that he gave right after that dastardly attack took place?
I believe that yes, we are at this particular moment in a very dark moment we are going through. But I don't just blame society in America. With due respect, I differ with Mr. Newton when he said that this is happening only in American society. If you see that overall what's happening in the world, if you see recently what's going on in Nepal, what happened in Bangladesh, or for that matter, other parts of the world also. So basically, we are living in a very dark moment, but it's not confined only to the American society. I personally believe that we are living in a culture of violence. Our movies, our video games, our sports, everything is laden with violence. So that's one of the reasons. If you see during biblical days, people used to greet each other by saying, "Peace be upon you," or "God be with you." In Indian culture, we used to say Radhe Radhe or Shri Krishna, or in Islam, we used to say Salam Alaikum, Walaikum Salam. But nowadays in our society, we greet each other by saying hello. So we start our conversation with hell. So this is the society we are living in. This is the society we are feeding violence. And then we are blaming that it's a political discourse. It's not only the political discourse. It's any area you take. Say, for example, what happened in Gaza, what Hamas did. Why can't we resolve our issues with negotiations and in a cordial manner? Why we have to resort to violence? I'm coming back to the same point I started with. If you see our movies, how do you see any movie nowadays made on Ten Commandments or Ben-Hur and those kind of movies? The fact is that we have taken God totally out of our life in today's society. That's the reason that we are indulging in so much violence. So yes, Donald Trump is right. We are going through a very dark moment, and it's not only the American society; it's all over the world. And if you remember, in India also, Indira Gandhi was assassinated because of political reasons. Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated because of political reasons. In Lalit Mishra, who was railway minister of Indira Gandhi, if you remember Samastipur blast, he was killed because of political reasons.
Right.
I can count at least hundreds of political
Mr.
leaders
Ahuja, if I may,
in Pakistan. So I don't understand why we cannot resolve our differences, whether it's a political or anywhere for that matter, to negotiation and peaceful manners.
Right. No, Mr. Ahuja, I completely agree with you. There are fault lines that have been exposed more so now in the US than in the past, but you're absolutely right. I think violence has been a very significant part of political discourse from time immemorial. It's sad that in the year 2025 this continues. But let's discuss some cold, hard facts. And if I could bring Mr. Jayant Das Gupta into the discussion here for a bit. Gun violence in the US has been a perennial problem, at least as far as the recent past is concerned. Some statistics point to a shooting every other day, or every day rather, as far as the US goes. Political violence as well, the attempted assassination of President Trump, the assassination of Charlie Kirk as well, rather tragic. But the fact still remains that both the Republican gun lobby and the United States' gun laws continue to hold firm to gun rights as a Second Amendment provision. Isn't that rather ironic, Mr. Das Gupta, the fact that while such tragic instances have targeted Republican lawmakers no less, the fact is the party continues to support the right to bear arms as per the Second Amendment, Mr. Das Gupta?
This is indeed a very contentious matter in the United States, because there is a very strong lobby which also opposes the possession of multiple weapons. And that too, in the US, assault rifles are also being allowed, which have a very large magazine and can fire up to 30, 40 shots. There was one incident I recall, ghastly incident, in which an ex-army man had about 45 weapons, and he went up to a hotel room, and from there he was shooting at the car park, and he shot dead, I think, more than 10 people. And then he was, of course, the security personnel went up and then shot him dead. But 45 weapons in his name. That is the kind of thing which we are staring at. So I think, in all the other nations which are equally developed, as in Western Europe, Canada, elsewhere, there is gun control. And of course, the US has this history that, the West was conquered at the point of the gun. And of course, the Red Indians were the receiving end of it, if I may put it bluntly. It is, part of the culture of the 19th century, I may say. But in the
Right,
present day
right, Mr.
context,
Dasgupta.
apart from gun culture, there is this very, I think, divisive rhetoric and very extreme kind of
Absolutely.
statements which are emanating from both sides.
Absolutely, Mr. Dasgupta, you made a very, very valid point, something that I was coming to next, and that needs to be addressed by the political dispensation. Let me take the point across to Mr. Ahuja. Mr. Ahuja, let me go back to the point that you made about, how video games and TV shows are really leading to the kind of, killings, the kind of intolerance that is being seen globally. And of course, you also compared United States to Pakistan, which is really not a country to be compared with the United States being the biggest economy in the world. But let's go back to your point about blaming your blaming of video games, TV shows, but not really the administration, which blames the left side of the spectrum. Donald Trump blamed the left side of the political spectrum, and he did not really address the core of the issue. Has Donald Trump failed as a politician, as a leader of the country, given the fact that he's only giving rhetorical speeches and he's not really addressing the polarization, which is only getting widened by the day?
To you, I don't agree with you with what you have just stated. First of all, we have to understand why Second Amendment is there. If you go to United States and you see that in certain rural areas, in a radius of 200 miles, there is no precinct, there is no police station, and these farmers, they have no other option but to defend themselves, to defend their farm animals, unless they have their guns. Without guns, they cannot defend themselves. They cannot protect their
We'll talk about the Second Amendment. We'll talk about the Second Amendment in just a bit, but let's first talk about... So let's talk about the issue here at hand. You essentially stated that video games and TV shows are to be blamed for what's transpiring in the country, and you believe that it is not the Trump administration which is responsible for what's happening in the country that his party is currently ruling?
Excuse me. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. He got killed. But first of all, I did not say only video games or movies. I am saying that the society we are living in.
This is 2025.
You tell me, how many families today pray together and eat together? The kind of society we are living in, we have totally forgotten our values. We have taken God out of our life. Secondly, coming back to the gun culture, if you see Switzerland, there is no government, federal army in Switzerland. It's the duty of private citizens to defend their country. The guns are more in Switzerland than they are in the United States.
So let me ask you another question. Sir, let me ask you one more question. Let me ask you one more question. In your opinion, sir, we'll talk to the point about gun violence just a little later, but talking about, the political class in the country, in your opinion, has Donald Trump honestly made efforts to scale down domestic extremism? Is this even a priority for the Trump administration, which at the moment is cracking down on Harvard?
First of all, I don't understand why you are blaming Trump. Trump has been in office only for the last couple of months only. Secondly, Trump himself has been
leader of the country.
Two assassination attempts. He has been a victim of that. So you are blaming Trump for creating this violence in the country. On the contrary, the left has rights. Even in the if you see the first term of Donald Trump on January 21st, in 2017, there were riots in the country. Washington, D.C. was on fire because they did not accept Donald Trump as president of the United States. So if you see, the left has been more responsible for creating this violence in the country as compared to Trump or Republicans. But I don't want to blame either Democrats or Republicans. This is a time, especially today, on 9/11 anniversary, we have to discuss what the gun culture or violence culture is. United States has been victim on today, on September 11th, United States were attacked by radicals. So we are talking of violence. Today is the day when we have to look back and see that
Right, Mr. Ahuja.
this violence has caused to
No,
this country.
Mr. Ahuja, I hear you. I hear you. Absolutely. Violence is no doubt a very serious issue that the US and for sure other parts of the world are also dealing with right now, and one that should be dealt with in iron fist, no doubt. But let me bring Alistair back into the discussion. Alistair, if I could just ask you, where does all this great political divide, so to speak, leave the United States? Is it going to be a challenge for President Trump to, deal with issues like this on one hand, while he also has to deal with global issues, geopolitical issues? He's been quite busy on that front. How do we deal with those when he already has his hands full on the domestic side, especially given this streak of violence in the US?
To be quite honest with you, Jude, I don't think Donald Trump is going to address the domestic violence issue in any way which is going to make it any better. And that isn't a reflection of Donald Trump. I think it's a reflection of where American society is generally. Because let's be clear about this. This is not a problem which has arisen over the course of the last 10 months. It's a problem which has been growing for a very long time indeed. In 2023, there were almost 50,000 gun deaths in America. That's the last year for which we have data, incidentally. So I can't tell you what it was last year. The Democrats were in power at that time. The Democrats have never really been able to do anything effective about gun control either, which is, as Sumita said, ingrained in the Second Amendment and has been ever since that amendment was put there to allow the raising of militias in the early days of independence, just in case the British tried to retake America. That's where its origins lie. I think it's been corrupted by later day legislators to the way it's interpreted today, but that's a different matter. If we look at Australia, which did bring in gun control in the 1990s, the number of gun deaths there is less than 100 a year. So that tells us something about gun control and what is wrong there. Donald Trump will make political capital out of this. The Democrats will try to make political capital about attacks on their legislators. And in the meantime, other business will go on as normal. Donald Trump will continue to try to resolve Russia-Ukraine. He will continue to try to reach a deal with India on trade. At the same time, let me say, is pressing the European Union to impose 100% tariffs on India because it's continuing to buy Russian oil. Make what you can out of that. So I don't think this is going to interfere with the overall running of the US administration. And I don't think it's going to interfere with business sentiment over the US, which has bigger issues to worry about than political assassinations, I'm afraid, tragic though this act was.
And that's a sad part, Mr. Newton, that, there are other issues at the moment which the Donald Trump administration is looking at, but not this issue with priority, given the kind of political deaths that we have seen in the past few months. In fact, since January, according to an estimate, at least 21 people have been killed in political violence. And then Trump himself was also attacked twice. A senior Democrat state lawmaker was killed. A gunman inspired by conspiracy theories. He attacked the Center for Disease Control. This should definitely be a priority for the U.S. administration. Remains to be seen what the U.S. administration really does about it. But let me come to you, Mr. Dasgupta. Now, looking at what's transpiring in the United States, what are the kind of risks that the U.S. is fraught with? If you could dwell a bit upon that.
I don't think really that this is the doing of the present government or administration of the U.S. as our co-panelist has mentioned. This has a long history. And even amongst the Democrats, there are supporters of the National Rifle Association and for less control on guns. So it is not about the political divide. It is about the acceptance of violence and tacit acceptance, if I may put it that way. And the other point is that this kind of, rhetoric, which I think is increasing in terms of the divisiveness, this leads to violence. The last point I wanted to mention is that if you look at the school killings, the killings by students who are in their teens, who get into their own school sometimes with weapons, and then they massacre people. This is something which is happening almost every month in the US. So I think it is for the US people to decide whether they want stricter gun control laws, or whether they want to have the same thing continuing, and at the cost of human lives, and very precious human lives. So it is entirely up to the people of the United States to decide. And I think we can only look at this whole scenario, with disappointment, with sorrow that a young life has just now been
Right, right,
snuffed out. Yeah.
right. You mentioned the young life, Mr. Dasgupta. Let me quickly get back Mr. Ahuja in on this. Let's speak a little bit about Charlie Kirk, 31 years of age, a right-wing American political commentator. Like some tributes to him today said, he used words as weapons, and it was rather tragic that his life was to end this way. I just want to get you in on this, Mr. Ahuja. Where does this leave us in terms of the discourse itself? A lot of observers and followers of Charlie Kirk's commentary would realize and mention how he often had very polarizing views, yes, towing the right-wing line, Republican line in the US, but truly polarizing, especially on his stance when it concerned a number of issues, including LGBTQ rights, gun violence, many others. Where does this leave American political discourse? Do you see the face of discourse changing? Are people going to be more afraid to speak out given these deepening political and ideological rifts, Mr. Ahuja?
That's a very good question. So I'll just make 2 points. Number one, we are not going into the root cause of the problem. The root cause of problem is not people having guns. Guns do not kill human beings. It's the human beings who kill human beings. The question is when somebody gets a gun permit, when somebody purchases a gun. I'm just giving an example of Switzerland. In Switzerland, to get a gun, you have to pass verbal test, you have to pass written test, and then you have to get psychiatrist evaluation certificate. Only then you get a gun. And to get your gun permit renewed every year, you have to get a psychiatrist certificate. Whereas in the United States, one can buy gun anytime, especially when United States has so much mental health issue. Anybody, even with a mental health problem, can go and buy the gun. So we have to change, if we have to change anything, the procedure of getting guns in the United States. Without a psychiatrist evaluation, one should not be allowed to get a gun. Number two, even that gun permit should be temporary gun permit. One should be given this particular directive that you have to get your gun permit renewed once in 2 years or once in every year, and without a psychiatric evaluation, your gun permit will not be renewed. So that's the only way we can have some kind of resolution to this particular problem. Otherwise, we are going to that Wild West kind of life here in the United States.
All right, aptly summed up there, Mr. Ahuja. There's a whole lot that's left to be done, especially as far as this political rift is concerned and the increasing cases of political violence. Let's hope things get better real quick. On that note, Mr. Newton, Mr. Ahuja, and Mr. Dasgupta, thanks so much for joining us on what is truly the big discussion tonight. Great to have you with us here, as always.